Good afternoon, everyone. This is Joanne Stevens, and this is our weekly call-in show for mobile home park owners and all things about mobile homes and mobile home parks. I'm very pleased to have as our special guest Tim DeWitt, who is the former executive director of the Michigan Manufactured Housing Association and a very highly regarded member of the MH business. Before I introduce Tim and interview Tim, I want to make some announcements. My website is joannemstevens.com. That's JOANNEM Stevens, STEVENS.com. And on the website, you'll find we post all of our newsletters. If you want to receive the newsletter by mail, just shoot me an email or call and we'll put you on the mailing list. But you can always access the newsletters and print them off from the website. I also want to bring to people's attention some important upcoming events in the MH business. And next week, the New York Manufactured Housing Association is having their annual meeting in Syracuse, New York. And I will be speaking, and my topic is how to know when you are not operating your mobile home park as an investment. This is a topic I've written about over the years in my newsletter. This time the talk is going to have a little different spin on it, and the spin is, what if Warren Buffett owned a mobile home park? What would he do different than most of us park owners? And that will also be the subject of the October newsletter, which will be posted sometime next week on the website. Also, I want to remind people about the Southeast Mobile Home Park event, which will be in Marietta, Georgia, October 10th, 11th, and 12th. You can register for that event and also the New York event on my website, Joanne M. Stevens. Just click on Save the Date in the upper right-hand corner, and it will link you to the website for these events. Finally, a not-to-be-missed event that is coming up is the National Communities Council annual meeting in Chicago, November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It's in the Westin Hotel right there on Michigan Avenue, and they're going to have some great speakers, and it's a great time to network and really learn about what's going on in the mobile home park business. So that is one that you'll want to attend if at all possible. So Tim, are you with us? While we're waiting for Tim, I want to tell you a little bit about Tim. And Tim, if you're with us, just push *6 to be unmuted. Also,
Joanne,
Tim.
I'm here.
Oh, hi, Tim. Welcome.
Hey, glad to be with you.
Thank you. And I want to tell our listeners before we kind of get into some of the what's going on in the business and what you've seen in the mobile home park business, because you've seen a lot. I think we could say you probably have seen it all, just like that commercial that you know a thing or two because you've seen a thing or two in this business. But Tim DeWitt is a very well-respected member at the Manufactured Housing Institute. He's served on the Executive Council for the state execs. He's been named the Executive Director of the Year more than once by the National Trade Association, MHP. And I can tell you from Tim was one of the very first people I met in the mobile home park business when I started going to MHI meetings. And back then, you and I were the the young people at the meetings.
I remember those days. That was a long time ago. Yes. That had to be what, in the late 70s, early 80s?
I was thinking it was the early 90s, but
Okay.
it's all
And I
kind
go back farther than you, unfortunately.
well, I didn't. You probably started going to the meetings before I did. But do you? I was thinking about our call today, and I remember that when in the 90s, the manufacturers dominated MHI, and they still do to some extent. But the communities weren't such a big part of the membership. I mean, they were, but certainly the manufacturers dominated that business. Do you think that's still?
You're correct. Back then, I think there were 38 or 39 different manufacturers building product in the greater Midwest, and they kind of carried the hammer and worked with their retail base or their dealer base that they had throughout the states, and then the communities, at least in the North or in the Midwest, had ample opportunity of being visible and working with these guys. And, here we are, 30, 40 years later, and, there's a half dozen manufacturers. The communities are still strong, but there aren't any street dealers per se. So that's major change over the last 30, 40 years.
That's a major change, and I don't think anybody, if we had told people back in 1990 that would happen, I think we would have been laughed out of the meeting.
Yep.
It was also the lenders, right up there with the manufacturers, the lenders to the consumers, such as Conseco. That was the lifeblood.
Local units. Yep. I remember the local banks, credit unions, and what have you. We had an overabundance of major lending sources, not just from a retail contract standpoint, but from a construction standpoint of building and developing these communities. And then all of a sudden, things got flipped upside down, and the lending sources kind of dried up, and everybody had to tighten their belt and be pretty creative in regards to working with their local lenders.
And Tim, I know, one of the things that I learned early on in the, as a real estate broker, I list and sell mobile home parks, is that, there's a lot of parks in Arizona, California, Florida, Texas, but Michigan has, in the Midwest, or the upper part of the country, has by far the largest number of parks. Why is that? How did that come to be?
Well, you'd have to go back about 40 or 50 years ago when the industry was cooking, and there were manufacturers actually building product in the state of Michigan and providing the Midwest with homes on a regular basis. In Michigan, there was a couple of key Supreme Court decisions that basically allowed, at that time, the mobile home industry equal footing when it came to zoning ordinances. The Robinson Township Knoll decision really gave the industry a shot in the arm to basically put local units of government on notice, saying that you can't discriminate against this form of housing. We are part of the housing market, the affordable housing market, and we're on that ladder. And as a result, the municipalities kind of got kicked in the shins on this sort of thing. So we ended up showing up in master plans for local units of government to include mobile homes at that particular time. Unfortunately, it was always down by the railroad tracks or the landfill or off the freeway when it came to those parcels of land that they included into the master plan. But as a result, we had a lot of creative developers in Michigan at the time that had a vision and wanted to, quote unquote, get out of the trailer park image of the 50s. And because the product was changing so much, that they wanted to provide communities that would meet the needs and wants of people that wanted to live in our homes.
Well, that's, I did not know that you had that court case.
Yep.
And that spurred the development. That's, I think other states probably have some ordinances or state laws like that, but I don't know if there's been any court cases per se. So
yeah, and going back that far though too, Joanne, you got to remember that the industry was just changing and growing so much. We were getting out of 10 and 12 wides and getting into 14 by 60, 14 and 16 wides, and from 50 to 60 to 70 feet out in regards to the length of our houses. And so the developers really could be creative in the designs and the layouts of these communities, and providing opportunities for people that couldn't buy a $250,000 house. And as a result, manufactured housing was part of the, part of their housing plans. In Michigan, there's about 1,100 communities that are licensed, and under the law, anytime you have 3 sites or more licensed, they're considered to be a community. So you have to have a state license and go through the procedures of inspections and permits and occupancy permits and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and the numbers that we used, and somewhere in the neighborhood of about 170,000, 165,000 licensed sites. And then if you use 2.2 people per household, which is kind of the rule of thumb, I've always said that about 8 to 10% of the citizens in the state of Michigan live in a manufactured home or a mobile home. There's also, the farther north you go outside the major metropolitan areas, you see a lot of homes on private property.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And so, Tim, with all of that development, with that court case that spurred the development, and it seems like Michigan, has had its, some ups and downs with the auto industry, but has a really pretty strong, a very diversified economy. And
yeah, yes and no, depending on what part of the state that you're from. There's 10 million people that live in Michigan, and as a result, naturally, everything that happens is centered somehow, way, shape, or form with the automobile industry.
Mm-hmm.
I called it always the, every 7 to 9 years, the roller coaster effect kind of went up and down in everything. It wasn't just housing or autos or what have you, but it affected everything that happened within the state. So hopefully we've gotten smarter over the years, and we've diversified as best as we can. A lot of the major cities throughout the state of Michigan are being very creative in regards to updating downtowns, and we're looking at schools and the IT industries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think things are better. They're sure pointing that way, and as a result, our industry should be able to take an opportunity to jump on the bandwagon and provide housing that people that want to live in manufactured housing for. And we're seeing that now.
Yeah, interestingly, I know we're going to talk about state associations, but I believe there's at least one mobile home, new manufactured home community being built in your state, and I believe it's in the Traverse City.
Traverse City area. Yep.
Yeah. Are there others? Do you know of any?
There's a lot of expansion. When you go through the zoning process in Michigan and you get the permits to construct, and you've got your construction plans in place, the community developers are usually doing this in 2, 3, 4 phases, so to speak. And so they run anywhere from 75 to 100 sites at a time. And a lot of guys who have the zoning, have the community, have the water and sewer and everything in place, but have been sitting on their hands for the last 10 or 12 years because of financing, because of the economy and all this sort of thing, are now taking a look at, maybe I ought to take that 3rd phase and put in those extra 75 sites that I have. So, I mean, that's all positive in regards to, they've got the infrastructure there with the roadways and electric and water and sewer and stuff. And we're seeing some expansions of existing communities and also some retrofitting. We're seeing some of the older communities kind of get a new look, so to speak, and are kind of taking a look at what they've done, and then how can they upgrade their community in a timely fashion. So those are all positive signs that are coming out of the industry here in Michigan.
Well, that is a very positive sign. And the new development, I mean, that could be the next big thing for the manufactured housing business. I mean, we've had the manufacturing, the expansion or the consolidation of the manufacturers. We've had many new investors.
There's a lot of new money coming into this industry, and if anybody out there is, I'm sure, reading the trades and reading the newspapers and seeing what's going on in the industry, there's a lot of people looking at investing in our industry. And that's kind of a neat opportunity. So with that comes the opportunity that you've got to educate the guys and gals that have the money, but also gives you an opportunity to go in a different direction that you may not have been able to go through over the last 10, 15 years.
Yes, and with us, the prices being paid because of the interest, as you're talking about, a lot of money, a lot of capital, a lot of new people, investors coming into the business. The prices of these existing communities are being pushed so high that one can make the case, well, maybe you're better off to just build a new park. The difference being that you don't have the steady income stream in the initial years, but on the other hand, you have all new streets and infrastructure, and
correct.
With all of the, let's segue here a little bit into the state associations, because if one is, I'm recalling when we built our park here in Iowa, and it was a very large park, almost 500 sites, and we really were new to the business, didn't know the business, and we joined our state association, and they were invaluable in information about buying homes, where to buy homes, educating us about the mobile homes themselves, as far as the structures and the construction of the homes, but also it took a tremendous amount of, there's a lot that has to come together to get the zoning to buy a park, even if you do have the right laws in place. And so I don't think we could have gotten through that without our state association. But
unsolicited testimonial, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it is, because not only did we have, as the developer builder, have to get educated, but we had to educate our the local town, the townspeople who, my experience in mobile home parks, when you want to zone something, is that the consumer, the council people, the mayor, the city department heads, everybody thinks of the word, has seen a really horrible looking park at one time or another in their lives. So when you say that, even though you're going to build a beautiful community, what comes up in their mind is the worst park they've ever seen in their lives, where there's a drug deal going on every day, and on and on and on. So how is your association, when you were the executive director, how do state associations help people build or educate city councils and townspeople about parks?
Well, being an association executive, I always operated under the illusion that I didn't build them. I don't sell the houses. I don't set them, service them, finance them. But my job was to, A, protect them, and B, promote the industry. And so every day when I went to work, I wanted to go to work because I had an opportunity to protect our members and their businesses in regards to negative things and legislative things that would happen to their business, but also have an opportunity to promote and to grow the industry. And so I never got caught up into the actual walking hand in hand with the member in development, but I was able to give them the master keys in regards to the process and the people that they had to work with to be successful. And so I guess what I'm saying is that from an industry standpoint, our industry really is not really welcomed with open arms, even though that you're in a situation where you're building a community. There's a lot of education, as you mentioned, Joanne, that needs to take place. And so we always provided that information. We were able to explain that, what had to be done as it relates to the state law on construction. We were able to do seminars and programs for local units of government and building officials in regards to what the industry has to comply with when it comes to actually developing this community. There's some positive PR and spin that you have to look at when you're a developer and being into a community that doesn't want you. And you gotta smile a lot. You gotta be visible a lot. And we usually gave the tools to our members to do that. I've gone to many a public hearing when there's 400 people that are against what the council is attempting to do, but there was a mandate or a court order. So you're building your community under a court order, and you're not getting the cooperation from the local unit of government in regards to timing and what have you. So our role as an association was kind of really, my philosophy is that I was basically an extra person on our member staff. It was a situation where, we knew the players, we knew what needed to be done. We could explain what the laws were, but it was a person that every day when I went to work, I was there to help protect and promote the industry. For $300, $400, $500 a year, whatever the dues were at that particular time, it was like having somebody on your staff that you had access to in regards to situations and requirements that the industry needed to do in a timely fashion. So that was the role that the association plays, and all of the associations throughout the country play. If they're doing their job correctly, they're giving their members the tools that they need, walking them through. And then we did some other neat things. We did roundtables, and we got involved with seminars and programs and conferences, and bringing the different segments of the industry together to allow them to network, because there was a good chance that even though you're in competition with each other, if something's happening within the state, it's just a matter of time that it's going to get filtered down into your particular area. So as a result, being able to network and to work with your peers that are in the same business really gave them a leg up and somebody to call when they ran into that problem and they needed some, regular day-to-day advice from somebody that was in the business that was, eating from the table.
Yes, I know that there have been some, rather significant changes. We were talking earlier about there's the retailers are gone, the financing is gone, but a big change was when Dodd-Frank came along, and so many park owners were just in the dark about their the new law and how it impacted them. So
right.
I know that was one thing that your association really took the leadership role in, but that was a pretty big. It seems like now most park owners are aware that that there's laws that you can't sell on do seller financing with the mobile homes. But talk about how you organized after that and what you did. Yeah,
you're correct. That was a big thing. Dodd-Frank, when it came down, kind of caught everybody by surprise, and as a result, we all had to kind of scramble to put things together. One of the things that I did immediately was hook up with the Michigan Real Estate Association, and partnered with a couple of companies that actually could get our members licensed under Dodd-Frank, so that if they were holding notes on houses that were located in their community, they had to be licensed. They were basically a lender. And I know that we had many, many meetings in regards to process and procedures and, this isn't fair. And, how did this happen? Well, we kind of took the high road saying, that water's gone under the dam. And as a result, if you're doing this, this is what you have to be. You're going to have to be a mortgage loan originator. You're going to hold the notes. There's opportunities to do it, but if you do it right, and it will be an asset to your business in the long run. And so I know within about the first 18 months, we had somewhere in the neighborhood of like 250 people go through the course and the class, get certified and become mortgage loan originators, so that they were in compliance with Dodd-Frank. Now, some of the older communities or people not wanting to do that we ended up setting up or giving them opportunities. There were some companies that were popping up in Michigan that you could run this business through their license as long as you follow the steps in the process and the procedures. So, what's the old saying? Sometimes you're dealt lemons, so you got to try to make lemonade. And as a result, we were on the ground floor of that. And I agree with you. It was a big thing back then. It's kind of quieted down a little bit. And as a result, it's just a way of doing business today.
Well, and more states, and probably Michigan, is doing probably seminars on how to rent homes, because
sure.
that was another game changer too. That 20 years ago, if you rented homes in the community, the image people had of your park was that, boy, it must be a really dog of a park if you're renting homes. Now it's very mainstream.
Well, it's a situation too, Joanne, is that, that was, the industry can react pretty quickly in regards to doing different things and what new laws come into place and so on and so forth. In Michigan, we were pretty lucky because, and you've been there before, we have a facility in Okemos, which is like 10 minutes from the state capitol in Lansing, that we had our own training room right on site. And so we used to do between 30 and 40 meetings a year in regards to the industry of things that are going on, from marketing to, manager meetings, to getting involved with fair housing and taking a look at new development and changes in the industry. We could react pretty quick. We didn't have to deal with the hotels. We could, bring in a caterer and feed everybody, and in 6 or 7 hours, give them an opportunity of these that were the changes that were going down. That was a nice asset that our board and our members put together in regards to being able to react quickly and to provide education and training in a timely fashion.
Yes, that is, something that Michigan is known for, and I think you started that, and probably in other executive directors saw what you were doing and took a page out of your playbook to start offering more training in all kinds of topics.
It just made so much sense, because if we could bring in somebody on a national level, we could bring them to Michigan on Tuesday and send them to Wisconsin on Wednesday, and then over to Ohio on Thursday, and all split the costs and, provide our members an affordable education type of program that they wanted and could use on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and I know that you have in your industry, and something we probably don't do enough, and I'd like you to talk about how you've promoted the networking among community owners, manufacturers, retailers, so people really do know each other. And I'm going to ask you to speak to some of the success stories you've had through your association, but I can recall when I joined our association, was new to the business, and I felt like I don't think there's other industries where the other park owners will just tell you everything you want to know about the park business. It didn't seem like there were any secrets. People were very forthcoming with information. They would, kind of show us their leases and how they did things and why they did them. And I always thought we had something special about our industry, where people would help newcomers, or just other people when they had a problem, to just if they had figured out a solution, they would share that with other park owners. But what have you seen in your career?
Well, you're right. The 20/80 rule is pretty common in the business world today. And what I mean by that is that, 20% of the people do 100% of the work. And I don't care if it's your church or your school or your industry trade association. So what I always try to do is to be on the lookout for creative, smart, aggressive, people out of the box that could participate as a member of the association to be on the various committees and boards that we had so that we could intelligently look and fight the battles that we needed to fight back with the state government, local units of government, what have you. But in the same token, too, had the respect of the industry peers throughout the state. And so as a result, it wasn't uncommon that we could grab a board member or somebody from Southeast Michigan to be part of our program in regards to, you know, how to rent, you know, rent homes to lease, or you know, piers versus pads, and slabs versus, I mean, construction and development and your roadways and cable TV and why it's a good or a bad idea. We've been really blessed of being able to tap into some really creative people that eat from the table, want everybody to be successful, and was not afraid to share all the little secrets that were out there. And as a result, you know, our conferences are well attended, our seminars are well attended. It also helps the bottom line of the association in regards to keeping us afloat. That's one of the things that I always tell everybody is I really have had great members and great boards that have given me the tools that I need to do to, you know, protect and to promote their protect and promote their businesses as a result of you know, them being members of the association. So yeah, that was always instituted. You know, there was a little plaque I had on my wall, I remember. It says, you know, tell me and I'll forget, and show me and I may remember, but involve me and I'll understand. That's an old Arch Lutzberg Chinese proverb that he found somewhere, that I happened to be at the seminar that he had in Milwaukee one day. And I kind of use that as a rule of thumb. I always tried to get our members involved in different things. And as a result, if you could see and be with and talk to, it just had a positive effect on things that we needed to do. I mean, we've done some pretty creative things in Michigan, and it was always having the board give me the right tools and the members to support the programs that we did.
Yeah, I think when states, you know, if there is a state where they struggle financially with their association, they need to look at what the state of Michigan is doing, because
yeah, you can't survive on dues. I mean, you got to be creative. You know, you can have insurance programs and gasoline programs, but education programs and willing to partner with different groups in conjunction of sponsorships and what have you is just a natural.
So that would be one thing. And tell me, I know we're getting close to the end, but if you would just maybe 2 or 3 key reasons for people to belong to their state associations, whether they're a park owner or whatever their business.
Whatever segment of the industry that is represented. I love those phone calls when, you know, why should I belong to the association, or why should I continue to belong to the association? We had a membership penetration. Probably the highest mark was about 81 or 82% of the entire industry in Michigan, which is pretty phenomenal because the average is something like 60. And I think today we're still in the 70s, like 74, 75%. So anybody that eats from the table that's in the industry should belong to the Michigan Association. And so when we would get these calls and saying, you know, I'm going to drop, or why should I join? I says, well, you can do whatever you want as a business person, but, you know, are you going to have the people, and are you going to wake up every day wanting to go to work to have a person that's protecting and promoting your industry on a day-to-day basis? Consider this association and their employees as an extension of your staff. So if you're having problems with the township official, there's a good chance that we know them, as well as somebody else is having trouble with them. Or if you're having problems in regards to a manufacturer, a consumer complaint, or you can't get a license for your drinking water, et cetera, we could open the doors and we could open the lines of communication by helping that member cut through all of the red tape if they needed help, because there's a good chance they'd have to, you know, we could speed up the process by, you know, 100-fold because of our relationship with all the different agencies that we had. You know, we dealt with 7 different agencies, from state police to the Department of Commerce to Treasury to the Secretary of State to the Construction Code Commission and what have you, that touches our industry in many, many different ways. And as a
Sure.
result, the relationships that we had with these departments and their employees, you'd pay an attorney $400 an hour to do the work that we could do probably in about 10 minutes by hooking you up with the right people at the right department in a timely fashion. So I would always say, if you don't think you're getting the most, if you don't learn one thing as a result of the seminars and the programs or the education program or the conference that we're putting on, I will personally give you money out of my pocket and refund your membership dues. And I did that for 39 years, and I only had 2 people ask for their money back, which is pretty phenomenal. But
That's
I had to question them by saying, okay, well, what about Dodd-Frank? And, Section 27 refers to et cetera, what are you doing with that? And I kind of caught them a little bit tongue in cheek, and they kind of punched me in the arm and said, well, I got you, and all that sort of thing. So that was, you got to provide value. And if you can provide value for the industry and the members, and people want to be part of something, and be it the 20% rule or the 80% rule, there's a place for everybody. And as a result, this, as a business today, it's tougher than ever before.
Yes.
And the more tools you have in your toolbox, the better off you are. And if it costs you $300, $400, and $500 a year to belong to your state trade association, that's the easiest money, the best insurance policy that you could have. Because if you have a problem as an industry person, you can get the answers, or it's a problem that the whole industry is having. And as a result, then the association needs to take a look at it and change the law.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the benefits. I mean, you've articulated the benefits of belonging to the state association very well, and there's just no reason. There's a tremendous upside and virtually no downside to belonging to your state association, as well as the National Trade Association. And in our remaining, I want to thank Tim for being our guest. And next week, we are having an interview on manager burnout. Crystal Adkins, mobile home living. But so Tim, tell us before our show ends today, how is life for you now that you've left?
Dinosaur?
After your years of living, eating, and breathing the mobile home business. Yeah.
It's, it was an adjustment. And as I said earlier, it's a blessing. I remember my dad saying, you want to wake up wanting to go to work versus having to go to work. And so I've had a great career as the executive director of the Michigan Association. I still have a lot of friends. I still run into a lot of our members, throughout my travels throughout the state of Michigan. I can always find a hot coffee pot somewhere. As a result, I'm working with some of the trade associations here in the state, also on the national level. And then I set up a little consulting company that, 2 days a month, if people are having problems or need a different way of looking at things, that they could contact me and I'll work with them. So, because I could always use extra money for my greens fees, because I'm trying to improve my golf.
Well, fair enough. Well, before we close, I'm going to give them if somebody wants to consult with you and hire you, I'm going to give them your email. And so it's Tim DeWitt, and that's T DeWitt, TDEWITT at MHRVCA.org.
No, you got it wrong. Let me see if I can correct it, Joanne. It's all lowercase, TDEWITT at MMHRVCA.org, O-R-G.
Okay, well, thanks for correcting me. I want to thank, go ahead.
I thank the board for allowing me to keep my email address. So that was a nice gesture for them as well.
Well, for sure. I'm sure they were happy to do that for you, and you've done a lot for the industry, and not just Michigan, but the entire industry. So hope to see you at an MHI or Michigan meeting one of these days.
Well, thanks, Joanne, and I wish everybody the best, and it's a great industry. If it was easy, anybody can do it. But as a result, with a little bit of vision and rolling up your sleeves to get involved, it's in my blood. It's been in my blood, and I really like the opportunities that lie ahead for our industry.
Well said. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Joanne.
So long, everybody. See you next week.